Hello and welcome. I'm Debbie Nelson with Alternative to Med Center, and we have started a webinar series that we wanted to help educate the world as to what exactly integrative and holistic medicine is. I'm with the founder of Alternative to Med Center, and one of the passionate things that makes Alternative to Meds very different is our environmental medicine piece, which it's almost deja vu to talk about, just because that's how I got introduced to Alternative to Meds, and none of that I wasn't educated on until you. And frequently we hear people that will call and they'll say, I've tried supplements and they don't work. My diet's dialed in and it's not working. And this is Lyle Murphy, and why?
Hi. So we've been at this for 15 years, and I've talked to over 20,000 people. And there's something very special about having a residential center. You learn a lot quicker because in an outpatient office, if you screw up a patient, you can essentially shove them out to the bus stop and they're gone. If you're living with the people in a residential way, they're still going to be there if you screw them up, and you have to figure out how to unscrew them up. So you learn fast on what works and what doesn't work. And in the evolution of this, we've bumped off of this wall and realized you need to go this way, and bumped off of this wall and need to go this way. So one of the learning attributes to this was, when I first got into this, I thought, well, and not to, the orthomolecular actually encompasses all of, detoxification and everything. But at the time, it really, to me, was rendering like, oh, you can take people off of drugs and put them on supplements, and they're going to be much better. And I was very passionate about that. I had some teachers that and book authors and such that had impressed upon me that this is the way to go. And after about 4 years of that, and having approximately a 25% success rate, I'm like, God, this is impressive. I mean, impressive for, especially if you can get someone who's diagnosed schizophrenic off of medications and, into life. But something very, 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 very important was being missed. And I told one of my teachers that I was sort of abandoning the supplement theory and going to invest myself more into detox. So I went and got a postdoctorate certificate in environmental medicine, which means you're already a doctor, and then you take something that is a postgraduate study. And I wanted to learn how to unpoison people, because it seemed like to me that the reason why the supplements were not working is because there was something blocking it. And for some people, it's true. I mean, we were throwing supplements at the problem, and it was like bouncing ping pong balls off the Berlin Wall. It was just like ding, 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 ding. It was going nowhere. So I guess an analogy would be something like, let's say we're in this room. I don't know, the viewers probably can't see the room, but let's just say we sealed this room off completely. And you and I were in here breathing, and you decided to make it a little bit more complicated, and you just put some carbon monoxide into the room. Okay, so you got basically a Ford or a Buick, let's say an old Buick, pumping carbon monoxide in here. There's still oxygen in this room at a concentration that's high enough to promote, for us to breathe. But that carbon monoxide has a higher bonding affinity for the hemoglobin than the oxygen does. So it occupies that spot so that the oxygen just keeps bouncing right off of it. And we go into oxygen starvation and die. We could even put a similar amount of oxygen into the room that's carbon monoxide, which would be like adding supplements. So we're increasing the oxygen level, but we're not getting rid of the carbon monoxide. We're still going to die in here, right?
Right.
So when we're adding supplements to someone's profile, I mean, there's a reason why they're probably not manufacturing this stuff in the first place. Yeah, sometimes it's a terrible diet. Sometimes people are living off of Cheerios and Butterfingers. And that's just, that's not going to work. It's just not going to work. The body's very, very, very bright. But to try to make the Taj Mahal out of some twigs and some Scotch tape is not going to happen, right? So the body is limited to a certain degree by matter. There's a limitation to matter, and there's a limitation to what our body can do. So you have to give it some good substrates and some bricks to build the Taj Mahal and some good construction materials for it to do it. But you also have to have things in place that you're not poisoning the process. So for instance, one of the things we've seen is that there is a huge effect on people's mental health because of mercury. People that don't have the genetics to clear mercury and have a burden of it in their body typically present as people who can't sleep, who have this ruminating type of anxiety, and who have like this fight or flight OCD. And it's constant, it's not intermittent. You can give them all of the tryptophan and supplement precursors that you want. You can even give them an antidepressant to try to lift up their serotonin. And it's largely going to be ineffective until you unpoison that mercury. So that's really what environmental medicine is. Environmental medicine is, I'm trying to make it not too analytical so people can bond with it, but it's the study of where the poisons are coming from in our environment, the study of how people, based upon genetic variations, can or cannot process that environmental burden, and how to clean it up. So it's three basic things. So like, for instance, our environment helps us grow. It shapes us. If we didn't have gravity, we wouldn't be able to function real well. You put somebody in outer space, you take away gravity, you lose that environmental stress, and they don't grow. But also, you can't be sitting in here and like breathing a toxin and be okay. So there's environmental stressors that are not going to help the body. They're actually going to break it down. So if you imagine a person's kind of like a car, right? If you keep a car inside of a bubble, it doesn't age, really. But you don't really get to drive the car. You don't really get to function with your body, Kind of like when you go to the gym, you're functioning with your body. When you take that car out on the road, you're actually experiencing the suspension, right? But there's different types of cars, and there's different types of people. So, like, let's say you have a Lamborghini. You know that the Lamborghini doesn't run off of diesel. You have to put good gas in it.
Right.
The Lamborghini can probably do, I don't know, whatever Lamborghini can do nowadays, maybe 200 plus miles an hour on a flat road. So you give it a nice flat road, and you've got a sports car. But how sporty is that car going to be if you try to drive it like a Jeep? You go down a dirt road. So let's say you go down a dirt road, and it's like, and you destroy it. And then you form this theory that, you don't drive cars on dirt roads. Well, what about a Jeep? So if you try to make everybody be like that Lamborghini, then you've just eliminated like the beautiful architecture of a Jeep. The Jeep's not going to win the Indy 500. It's not going to do 200 miles an hour, but it can do its thing. So like, you have to really study people. You have to really look at people. Like, everybody's different, like some people that have OCD, not OCD, but some people that are just very attentive to detail, right? If they're in balance, they're going to be fantastic at being able to do detail-oriented things. They're going to make sure that your backdrop for your movie set is perfect. They're going to make sure that the synchronicity of like one shot to the next. Let's say I have a 32 automatic in this shot and I'm shooting somebody with it. They're going to make sure it's a 32 automatic in the next shot. They're going to have that attention to detail. But if they're not in balance, if they don't have the counterbalance for that, which would be serotonin sort of buffers that like obsessive like quality, right?
Right.
They're going to be, they're going to drive everybody else around them crazy because they're going to be so about things that it's not going to feel good, right? But then you have another person that's like very loose and flippant, and they're sort of like hypomanic, They dream the world in a whole different way. They don't really care about the details. I don't really care if you need a bridge to get across the San Francisco Bay. We'll get there. We'll build one. I don't know how we're going to build it, but we're just going to get there anyway. And they dream the world, Now, if that person's out of balance, they're going to probably try to walk across the water and drown, you know what I mean? They're going to be like, a little too looped, right? Which, it's like me too. I mean, you treat those people different. You treat the Lamborghini different than you treat the Jeep, right? What we tend to do in our society is that we think the RDA, the recommended daily allowance, is the recommended daily allowance for everybody. I mean, whoever dreamed that up is probably the same people who I would consider in the world to be medically stupid. There is a lot of medical stupidity, a ton of it.
Right.
The problem, people, is in the evolution of this movement, which has become quite large now, but in the evolution of the movement, the people that have been the biggest barriers to me have been the doctors. like trying to get doctors to understand how this works. I mean, you've got people who have the most control over people's lives, especially when you're dealing with mental health, and they have the least amount of exposure and the least amount of reality on what the person's going through. And they're making huge decisions on what type of medications they're going to poison this person with. And sometimes, medications are important, especially in our society. We don't have like a plan B. We don't have like, oh, take them to an organic farm somewhere and just have them run it out.
Right.
We have people that might hurt themselves and run out into traffic. So there is a place for that. But the doctors have been largely the people who've been wielding their license around as being like, oh, I'm an authority. And they know very, as Voltaire would have said, they know very little about these medicines that they're giving people. I mean, you really sit with a psychiatrist and you go, okay, so what are the pharmacokinetics of that drug? What are the CYP enzymes that are needed to break down that drug? You might lose them, right? Then when you ask them about the symptoms that they're treating it for, like they're only seeing this patient for a little bit. They don't really know what those symptoms are. They get angry. Well, maybe they get angry because their family's, doesn't let them go outside or doesn't trust them or whatever. Like, but it's anger. They're treating an anger thing. So they know very little about the symptoms, and they know nothing, literally nothing about the patients that they're giving these drugs to, because they're only seeing them for such a short period of time,
Right.
So in order to reconnect people and plug them back into their innate intelligence of their body, we have to unpoison them. When we unpoison them, right, and not just from the physical things, not just getting the mercury and everything, but unpoison their, the toxic influences that they have psychosocially as well, then all of the supplements and all the therapy is going to work. So I'll give you an example of something that, like I don't want to say that, oh, it's just unpoisoning people and it's just, biophysical. I'm not the champion of all of the other stuff, but I'm Gabriel Mate and the psychosocial stuff, fantastic, but it's not a standalone any more than the biophysical is a standalone. And so I represent the biophysical because it seems to be the underrepresented redhead stepchild of the mental health world, like, oh, we'll talk about it. There are people, when they're poisoned, it doesn't matter. Do you talk about it forever? So, and not get any progress with it. We had this one woman way back when. So it's kind of a pure, thing. We didn't have a psychotherapist back then. I didn't have a counselor. And I had me. That's it. And I had a thing of supplements. And I had some notions about how we might be able to help somebody get off opiates. I hadn't really run it I think it was in my second or third year. And this woman came in and she had a horrific story. She was on opiates. She experienced her first molestation at age 6 from her father. And then her father proceeded to sell her to his friends until she was 15 and CPS came in and extricated her from that situation. She was currently living with a husband, has 2 kids. The husband was beating on her and being physically abusive. And I'm like, oh my God, I feel like I just, like, I didn't want to show how freaked out I was. I'm trying to keep my composure. And I'm like, I don't have a therapist here. We can talk about anything you want. And, I would love to hold space for you as an individual and whatever stories that you have that you're bringing. But I have this bag of supplements here, and I think I can tune up your endorphin levels to help you get off of painkillers. And it might help with your emotional, like firmament as well. And like, just the funny thing was, for some reason I picked her up from the airport, which I don't usually do the airport runs. I must have been down that way. And I was late, and like, I didn't have her phone number because she didn't have a phone or something. I didn't even need a phone number. She was one of those emotional endorphin deficient people that you could feel her. She was one shivering and shaking over in like that, by the baggage carousel. And on the way back, imagine, if you will, like coming back from Phoenix, I was in the worst snowstorm I've ever seen in my life, coming up to Sedona. I couldn't even see the hood of the car. And she was having this grand time with it. These endorphin deficient people feel everything. There are artists of the world. God help them if they get famous and they have a little bit of attention on them. But like any anxiety or her, kid would call and was like, Mommy, I miss you. I mean, just completely falling apart. She was paper thin to everything. And the strange thing is that all we really did was clean up her diet, get the inflammatory foods out, get her body moving, and give her some things that are going to build up her endorphins. And like, it was like this switch that just got flipped. Like suddenly she was able to hold her emotional continuity together. She was listening to other people that were struggling in their stuff, giving them awesome reflections. I mean, she had had a lot of good information, more therapeutic guidance than I had gotten. Like she was like quasi-professional from all the service, but she couldn't do anything with it. It was like ice that the water kept moving. It never formed, because it was still moving, and her neurochemistry was all over the place. Once we gave her the substrate and what was necessary in order for her to build endorphins.
Right.
And the crazy thing is we expected her to fall flat on her face when she left because she had the abusive husband. Obviously, her family of origin was terrible. She went home, took the 2 kids away, went in and moved in with his parents, and still to this day, 13 years later, is fine.
Right.
And anyone else would have looked at that and said, well, this is a trauma case. Even I was like, I don't know if this is going to work or not. And would have missed how well these things go together. When you take the biophysical and you mix it with psychotherapeutic insight, a person can actually go from point A to point B. Right. Otherwise, sometimes they're just like on a hamster wheel. They're going around and around. Am I going to die? Am I going to die? They can't actually move in a linear direction.
Well, I get asked all the time because someone will say, what's the most important part of your program? And I'll say, well, it all is. I don't know how to take one piece out. I mean, if you don't have the nutrition, if you don't have supplements to support you, if you don't have the detox protocols to get things out, if you don't have a heavy therapeutic approach, all of it's important because one without the other. But it is the difference between being able to balance yourself out and actually do the work. Because if you're not balanced, and most people, the only way that they get balanced is here's medication. So you have trauma, you have this going on, you have depression, you have divorce, you have death, you have all the things that happen to people in life. And if that's the first line of defense is medication, and we never really deal with the underlying, right?
I watched this very high volume rehab in Berkeley, California. They were running through about 1,200 people in a year. And they graduated. They had graduations. It was a 1-year-long program, and they graduated people twice a year. So they would graduate about 30 people every 6 months, which was 60 people a year. That's 5%.
Wow.
And with that high volume, I really watched, granted, they were taking people right off the street, like people hacking up TB balls and that kind of stuff on a plastic mat, kind of like off the street. And, a few of them would get and graduate. And I watched, who are the people that were graduating? Like, what qualities did they have that were actually leaning to their success? And it was largely the people that had changed their diet and were going to the gym and working out and actually physically, taking care of the biophysical components.
Right.
And so that was like my first, hey, there's something different here, And I love the 12-step. What you'd mentioned is it takes both. Well, I really feel like without the biophysical component, it doesn't really matter what the psychospiritual construct is. Like if you're missing the biophysical, it doesn't matter.
I agree.
Let's say somebody's an alcoholic.
Right.
We know that alcoholism cuts across all the demographics. It doesn't matter if you're rich, you're poor. I mean, if you're poor, maybe you have a higher incidence, but it doesn't matter what your spiritual faith is. It doesn't matter who's going to be mad at you.
Yeah, I was a Mormon who was an alcoholic.
Yeah. Okay, so why?
Right.
Why? And Bill and Bob came along and said, it was 12-step, said, hey, this is a spiritual malady. And it is. Mm-hmm. It is. And the quality of that insight in that book and reading it, it's like, they were tethered to something really special as far as divine. But why do they only get a 5% success rate in these? And I know most of the people that are going to meetings are not really doing step work, but what's being missed here? And if you look at it, alcohol and sugar are just complete analogs of each other.
Right.
I mean, alcohol is a liquid sugar. If someone has a reactive hypoglycemia, in other words, they eat sugar, their blood sugar goes up, and then they produce more insulin, right, than the sugar, and it drops their blood sugar down below a baseline. This reactive spot of their low blood sugar is a crisis situation to the brain. The brain is just saying, hey, I'm dying, I need some help. And we're blaming these addicts, for like, it's a survival thing. They'll make up any excuse or have any sort of blow up to like go and get their next drink. Because alcohol is a liquid sugar. It doesn't even require digestion. It just goes right through into the bloodstream.
I think that's the beautiful thing, though, that everyone that's on this mission to try to help individuals I got myself well, and then instantaneously I did the same thing you did, where I started thinking, what's missing with this picture, and why is there only a 5% success rate, and what do I need to do differently? And so going on that journey and then bumping into you, and I always say that when we ask for answers, there's speed bumps that happen in our life, and it's to slow us down. And either you take in it and go, you know what, I need to slow down and learn this, or I'm not going to survive. And I wanted to get well. And then I realized with each step, there was something else. So it was like, first, dietary things. And I used to tease, but I mean, seriously, when I stopped drinking, I said, if I could have injected a sea sucker in my vein, I would have.
Mm-hmm.
Seriously, the sugar addiction kicked in full blown. And then it was learning, dietary things, and then what supplements would help you, like you said. And then we're going to circle back to the detox part of it. The med spa that we do 5 days a week.
You have to.
All right.
So put your finger up so that we can see.
You were talking about, I'll say all the time, there's therapeutic for what one person, another person is completely different. There's nothing wrong with it.
Yeah, and it's like, I would think it would be obvious to the treatment community, like there's a difference between why I would love a stimulant, but I'd never be attracted to like an opiate or a downer. But other people, you give them a stimulant, they're going to flip out,
Right.
There's this sort of addictive biochemistry that leaves us vulnerable
right.
to certain things, right? And when you really break that down, when you really get into the devil of those details, there's a whole terrain in there. Like for that woman that had suffered, those tragedies and traumas that she had, like, what does the body try to do? I mean, we try to survive, right?
Right.
So when you're pounded with so many different threats and you think you're going to die, like I'm sure she thought at any given moment she was going to get killed. I can't even imagine the horror she went through. You're going to get more aware of threats in your environment. You're chipping down your endorphins because of the trauma so that you can be more aware of people's facial stuff and different threats so that you can avoid getting killed. Okay? That's an adaptation. So your environment and your the traumas that you've been through have left you vulnerable in a certain way to opiates. Because opiates allow you to create an artificial buffer between you and other people's emotions. If you're overfeeling everything, you're going to want to shut that down. That's what they call self-medicating. If you're having a blood sugar plunge, you're self-medicating with alcohol. You could be doing it because you have a chronic anxiety thing, because you have so many excitotoxins in your nervous system that you can't shut that shit off and you don't want to take Valium. So you drink. I mean, there's a reason why people do specific drugs or are drawn to certain self-medicating things. Those are called clues.
But alternative to meds, that's the big difference, is that we see many, many people that come to alternative to meds that start out in a traditional rehab. They aren't touching drugs of their choice, but now are on a slew of psychiatric medication, because traditional, like what I experienced, was you drank, you like Adderall, here you go, here's 5 psychiatric medications you now will take for the rest of your life. No one said to me, eat this, don't eat that. Take these supplements to reinforce, to address those imbalances that are going on within your body. No one said that. And good luck to you. You've got less than 5% chance of surviving this. If you don't do this.
The practice of medicine may not be the oldest profession, but it can often be seen to be operating by similar principles. I mean, not only is the practice of medicine not giving you the relief that you're looking for.
Right.
You might actually end up with something you didn't expect, which is, like you're having all sorts of side effects to the drugs.
Right.
And that extended itself, that pushed its way into the treatment field, Like, I was smiling a little bit because I was remembering this Chris Rock, the comedian video, but you just type in Chris Rock medications. He's like, they don't want you on your drugs. They want on your drugs. They want you on their drugs because
Right.
it's profit.
It is.
There's no, okay, it's not even a conspiracy. These pharma reps go to organizations like a nursing home and they sell the administrators on a certain new drug. It's just how it works. And then all of a sudden, all these old people are completely poisoned on whatever the new thing is. Okay. And they're like drooling, and that's considered mental health care. When you're going into a mental health facility for your drug treatment, it's not, oh, well, let's get you on some organic food because they're not going to make any money off the organic food prescribing. Sorry, that's the reality of it. They're going to make money on getting you on some of their drugs and making you a drug consumer. And you know, it actually pisses me off worse. Like the crack dealer on the street, okay, which we've demonized, right? Clearly. Probably for good reason, but you know, like the war that we've created on drugs, it's a very selective war, you know? We've demonized this. And I actually, to some degree, hold the crack dealer in a higher state than I do like the practice of psychiatry. Because when we are going to the crack dealer is probably not telling us, hey man, you know, this is going to help you. You know that shit's bad for you.
Right.
All right? When you're a child and you go to a psychiatrist and they say, you are borderline. In other words, you had some developmental things that didn't happen, and we're going to give you a drug. It's not even supposed to treat a personality disorder with a drug in the first place, but they're going to give you drugs, call you broken, which is like professional name calling. It's like calling you a shithead, but you're saying it in a very professional way, right? Oh, you're, you generalized, whatever. And like you convey that sense of brokenness and you sell them the drug at the same time.
Oh, definitely.
As an authority figure.
As an authority, yeah.
And you know what? I don't hold a lot of esteem for these guys because at some point along the way, they probably see that shit's not working. Some people are still like deluded and they think that poisoning children's psychology and putting them on ADHD medications is a way to actually help a child. Some of them actually believe it, but some of them along the way, they get that that's just not really working and that they don't know another way. And they're not willing to step out of that toxic box that they know is not working. And because they don't know how. They don't know how to give a good diet. They might passe say, oh, you should be eating better or whatever. But the ones that actually step out of that and say, okay, this is a failed profession. Psychiatry is a failed profession. It's not working. The pharmaceutical industry even knows this. They're not really promoting new psychiatric medications because it's not worth the money and it's not worth the lawsuits. So there's something that's toppling over, right? Now, there are people that well-meaning people that got into this because they wanted to help people and became a doctor and then became a psychiatrist that got deluded by this epidemic of marketing that these drugs are good, right? And they're realizing it's not. The ones that I applaud are the ones that are stepping out of it and saying, okay, I'm going to go do something integrative.
There is. And that's the beautiful thing is now there's, new integrative psychiatry schools that are actually producing integrative psychiatrists that are looking into functional medicine and diet. And, I think it's fun. I mean, there was a recent news article and this doctor said, he was doing nutritional psychiatry. And when I shared that with Lyle, he kind of laughed, this is new. But the truth is, why is it that there's no correlation? Nobody ever wants to see that what we're eating actually influences our mood. Like that, there's no connection. No one wants to believe that
the
there's
drugs
a
are
connection.
new.
Right.
Alternative shouldn't be. I mean, the concept of calling alternative medicine alternative, like the drugs should be the alternative.
Right.
It's like if you do all the natural stuff and it's not working,
right.
That's when you would do the alternative, not the other way around.
Right.
Okay. And I'm not anti-psychiatry.
Right.
I'm anti drugging people. It's kind of like this. It's like if you've got a bad diet and you're having these symptoms and you're teeter-totters like this and you're not producing enough serotonin to balance the OCD, it's like you show up with this poisoned thing to the doctor's office and the doctor says, well, let's try to poison it in another direction and hope the broomstick will stand in the middle of the hurricane. It's just not, it's just what the setup is.
Right.
And when these symptoms are the body crying out saying, I need some help. Literally this may not be the best analogy, but like when George Floyd was saying, get off my neck. It's like, that's the body crying out, I need some help. And you end up in a psychiatrist's office and they fucking poison you even worse.
Right.
And it's just terrible.
Right.
But they don't get it. That's the body's crying out for things that it needs
Well,
in order
something
to
so
survive.
simple. That's the crazy thing, is that some people don't want. Okay. I think sometimes it just appears almost too simplistic to give people the right food, the right therapy, the right supplements, detox the body. That's just too simple. This is a really complex situation, right? That's what it's just far too complex. The one thing that I will say when I'm speaking to people, I said medicine as a whole, we're not negating that medicine is bad, but it would be like us saying that an antibiotic is bad. It's no different. An antibiotic has its place, but if we keep just giving people antibiotics, pretty soon it's toxic, it doesn't work.
Yeah, MRSA.
And we're not even addressing what's driving the infection. All we're doing is keep on treating the infection, and pretty soon that medicine has not effective and it's not working anyways. And these kind of medications, we see it time and time again. And if someone were to say to me, like, I'm going to be 54, that I feel better now at this point in my life than I've ever felt, that doesn't make any sense to people. And they'll say, well, you don't understand. I said, well, I've always, had problems with sleep. I had this, I had that. But the difference is I've learned what I need to do to stay well and what works for me, which is different than what would work for someone else. It's not the same for everyone.
So I wanted something arose up in me when you talked about like the diet and exercise is so passé. Okay. Any good propagandist will tell you, if you tell a lie loud enough and you repeat it enough times, it becomes true. People have been acclimated to believe that doctors actually are more brilliant than the body, and they're not. A good doctor knows how to work with the intelligent systems of the body,
right,
and listen to those as being valuable things, not bend it over a rail and make it do whatever it wants. And that's what we're doing not only in our medicine, but it's what we're doing on our planet. We're trying to get Mother Nature to bend over and do what we want, and it's not going to work. Okay, so what does a organization like a pharmaceutical company do when they're basically their survival's threatened? Like you're saying, and they're realizing that certain things are starting to take hold. They're going to fight for their life. So what we're going to see coming up is you're going to see pharmaceutical companies fighting for their life, literally, because on some level they're going down, and they're not going to go down without a fight. They're going to try to make you wrong, and they're going to try to make me wrong. They're going to try to keep blasting like, oh, vitamin D is bad, it might kill you. You're going to see stuff like that.
Right.
And if there any good advice for mental health, it's like, shut your TV off. Just stop. Just take a fast from watching TV, watching news, and use that resource that you have there of time and attention and put it onto going to a organic supermarket and looking around at what looks good to you. And then take that and take it home with you. And then listen to how your body feels after you do it. And get in tune with that. Get in tune with yourself. Get in tune with how that food feels in your body. And then start getting in tune with other people through actual communication. Because a lot of what we're getting in the news media is a huge impediment to our survival, to our listening to our own bodies, and to trusting what we're feeling on an internal basis. That's true relationship with mental health. You're not going to have mental health sold to you by what's happening through your TV. If you really look at what's happening, anything you see on TV that is about a food product is some toxic shit that's not good for you. You're going to see something that has a shelf life, that can be marketed, that has been construed in a way that's going to trick your physiology into thinking that's good. They're going to take something dead. If you flavored cardboard enough, you could make it palatable and you'd have people that even liked it, especially if you change the texture and everything. Okay? You can make something completely dead taste good when you add salt, when you add fat, when you add sugar, or you add spice to it. So that's what they do to things. You don't ever see like an advertisement for blueberries, like, oh, look at the happy blueberries. No, it's for organizations that have a huge machine behind it.
Right.
Like the US, like the Dairy Association or the Meat Association or something. And all of this toxic crap. The FDA is not there. Seriously, the FDA is not there for our interests. They're not there to protect us from food or from drugs that are bad for us.
Right.
They're there to protect the interest of their employer. Now, when the FDA in 2010 received half, like $250 million from the pharmaceutical companies, that's not a conflict of interest. This is a federal organization that's receiving money from the same people that they're supposed to be policing.
Right.
That's their employer. That's not even a conflict of interest. That's who they're working for. So you get somebody like Dr. Brzezinski, who comes along. Dr. Brzezinski came up with basically extracting the anti-neoplastins out of a person's urine and then injecting that into the tumor as a gene-specific way to cure cancer. This man was curing cancers, like cancers like the astrogliomas and things in children that had never been cured before, by using his therapies. What did the FDA do? First of all, they sent the Texas Medical Board after him. They didn't find him guilty of anything. Then they sent the Texas Superior Court after him, which they put his license on probation for a year. But even the judge in that particular case became his advocate. Like, oh my God, this guy is doing great things. So then the FDA, without anything on this man, anything that came to his offices, mopped up all of his records and kept all of his equipment for 12 years. Can you imagine that?
Mm-hmm.
This man that actually was curing cancer. Why? Because it threatened $1 trillion cancer operation. Mm-hmm. When you're threatening the status quo of how they're making money, they're going to come after you. And they're going to keep doing it through advertising over and over again. Like, hey, you need this pill, you need this thing, you need this.
Right.
Well, you're feeling bad, you're feeling good. I mean, but when you have like Johnson & Johnson for Risperdal getting sued for billions of dollars because they produce a teen screen and they put it into the school systems that capture every single child, well, not every single, but the majority of children over normative feelings like, do you ever feel like your friends don't like you, kind of stuff, and then recommend that they get put on Risperdal. And they get sued for defrauding the American public, and they get sued by a state, not a class action suit, but actually the state itself of Texas sued them for bringing this crap into their schools, and those people don't go to jail.
Right.
You know, they produced a drug that produced $30 billion that year alone. Do they care? No, because that's the cost of them doing business. They don't care how many people die or how many people they have to defraud. And that's what's really happening out there. And it's going to come unwound. And hopefully the people that are ready to hear, like the message, will listen. They'll go, oh, you know what he's saying is right.
There's a lot of people. I think that as a whole, that the world is waking up. We're seeing an evolution happen. And for some people, they feel like it's too late. They feel like they've been on these medications for 20 years. They had no clue. But the world is waking up. I said the body's an amazing thing, that when we give it the right ingredients to work off of, it's amazing how great we can feel. And I call it intuitive eating, that no longer the things that you used to think that you couldn't live without, it isn't even a desire anymore, because you realize how bad you feel after you eat something that is poison for your body. When you start eating clean and you start feeling good, you don't want to go back. But
well, people have been really snowed over by bad food choices.
Oh, definitely.
They're not feeling a whole lot, They're not really feeling that food product's bad for them. When they step away from that, then they become more in tune. They go, oh, that
Right.
pizza made me feel really bad,
Right.
But when they're so like, it's like it just sort of traces into like the septic of their life,
So let's talk med spa, because 5 days a week, when people come to Alternative to Meds, we have a med spa where they do all different forms of detox protocols. And you were very passionate about bringing this onto the program, and felt as if this was a very vital part of the program itself. And why is it that these certain practices you feel are so vital? Like, what is it that they do?
Well, it's because they work. It's not a philosophical bent. It's really just watching and seeing what works. It's a lot to ask someone to do the regimen that we do. There's a physical component to it. There's things that they have to step up to, that it's not a passive process.
Right.
So if there was an easier way, we would do it. But so far, it's a thing that works. And uh, the 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 way that toxins store in your body are one of two ways, maybe more. But I mean, the primary ways are they're fat soluble. Like anything that's water soluble, like B vitamins, vitamin C. If you take too much, you slough them off because they just run right out of you. If you take too much vitamin C, you will get diarrhea and you will that stuff out until it's gone.
Right.
You know, but something like vitamin A, you can actually store up enough of it. It's vitamin A is a fat soluble vitamin, so it can form toxic levels because you can accumulate too much of it. So that's the same way with poisons. So hormones are fat soluble. You can put them on your skin, and they can go into your body. Guess what? Most of the creams and salves and things that we put in our hair and everything are going right into our brain, just like those hormones are. And if they're hormone mimickers, you know, like BPA is a hormone mimicker for testosterone, biphenyls, they are changing the way testosterone works. So all of these creams, all of this onslaught that we're having from all of our hygiene products, if you can't eat that, if you look at those ingredients and they don't look like something that looks like food to you, then you should not put it on your skin.
You know, I learned a lot from you because when you did that, I started doing research and I learned in the United States, we have 9 known carcinogens, not known, 9 carcinogens only that are banned in United States products. In comparison, if you go to other countries that have socialized medicine, 2,400 are over in the UK. There's other, if it is a socialized medicine, they're like, no, these are not allowed in our beauty products. We have 9. And it was a real eye opener for me when I started looking at, because I was, love my beauty products, all of these different things that I started looking at, my lotions, looking at the things that I had and realizing I never thought that these would influence my mood or my hormones. And you're right. When you said that initially, I was like, what do you mean eat them? I mean, that's eccentric. He's such a Sedona guy. Now I'm making my own homemade body butter and I could eat it, honestly. And I can't believe like the improvement in my skin and how I feel, but also then it's the realization I'm not putting toxic on my body. And that's huge.
One of my mentors, Dr. Lester, wrote a book. He was an orthomolecular guy, and I can't remember his book right off the top of my head. Maybe it'll come to me later. But one of the things he mentioned in there is that we blame the external factors of our life, the founding marriage, the social milieu at work, for what's going on in here.
Right.
And by and large, it's more of what's going on in here that's creating the external factors.
Right.
I mean, yeah, we integrate things. We have choice over the way we integrate stuff that happens to it. But a lot of times there's an internal mechanism that's happening. And we have painfully become aware that what we put in our bodies affects our physical health. We're still waiting for that 100th monkey to hit where we realize that what we put in our bodies affects our mental health, including the hygiene products.
Right.
Now, in comparison, our body and the cells of our body are a tank compared to the chemistry that's happening in our brain. If something can get past our blood-brain barrier and get to our brain, like fat-soluble things can do, or like solvents can do, right? They are going to change a lot really fast. So like the difference in micrograms of LSD, I mean, we're talking micrograms of something, because its chemistry can change the chemistry of your brain and have a profound effect. Do you put LSD on your body and it like suddenly makes your knee disintegrate? No. I mean, even arsenic, which is pretty bad for you physically, it takes a good bit of arsenic in comparison. So your brain is a biochemical organ. It is going to respond to chemical change because that's what it does. So when you change the chemistry of your brain through chemicals, you change the way that serotonin is either manufactured or broken down, or the way that dopamine is expressed or reuptaken or whatever, you're going to change the way the person feels about things because you're going to change their emotional state. You're going to change their ability to balance. Now, if a person's stuck in fight or flight all the time, all the time, they're probably poisoned. If a person's stuck in a certain emotional state all the time, it doesn't come or go. We're not talking social anxiety. We're not talking about like you got a bad night's sleep. You're talking they're stuck there, they're probably poisoned. And in order to really get them there, it's not going to be a matter of supplementing them or talking them out of their problems. You have to unpoison that part in order to get them to come back to health.
So that's why, I mean, 5 days a week, you're about having people do various forms of cleansing activities to help them untox the toxic overload on the body. And then it's also an educational component that goes with it, everything from the cleaning products to the beauty products to the fabric softeners to the Glade plugins that people have in all over their house to there's an enlightenment that happens that people never really made a direct correlation behind any of that. I know now when I go and get my car cleaned and they're like, well, what scent do you want? I'm going to put that scent in my car. I don't want to drive around with that toxin and breathe it in. Before I used to think, oh, I want my car to smell like the new car smell or, you know, whatever scent it was. I see things in a very different way because of you and what you've brought into that realm of mental health. I don't know that a lot of people ever make that connection. So it is a part of education that happens within Alternative Med Center, but also it's something you've played over and over again since the start. You know, pretty early on, you started saying, I'm not noticing that these supplements are working because of the toxic overload.
Well, they're working 25% of the people, but
right.
The car analogy is a pretty good one. I mean, we all drive cars for the most part. So it's kind of like if someone comes in and they're like, you know, they got a dirty car. And we can sit there and we can talk about like, you know, how are you going to get my car clean? well, we're going to have this like, you just put them through the car wash, right? And you get the car clean. Then we can talk about why you're letting your car get to be a mess, you know?
Right.
But when people come in with the most absurd things, like, I'm like, oh, I got my anxiety, and it's like, or they've got Malday debarkment syndrome or Tourette's, or, you know, things that, you know, when the first time I saw them, I'm like, oh, what is that? I have to go look that thing up, you know? But when we put them through this human car wash, we clean out their physiology, that's probably the most efficacious thing
right.
for getting them tuned up. Then we can talk about other ways in which they can sustain that.
Right.
How do you keep your car clean? Well, you put a wax on it, you know, you just like, you squirt it off and like get their psychology wrapped around continuing to keep their car clean so that it's bright and shiny.
Well, thank you, Lyle.
That's it. We're done.
We're done. Well,
Okay.
I just wanted, it's like, honestly, this is a piece that is so missing. And we want to have this educational piece as to why the detox part of our program is so vital for all the rest of the pieces to work.
Thank you.
And it's just one piece, but a super important piece. And honestly, with mental health, you have been saying it for a long time that there's a lot of underlying toxins that are out there that are contributing to mental health issues.
Well, and just to close it out, you know, in 15 years back when, you know, there was hormone docs running around. There were like people who were trying to do good things, and I would see their profiles online, you know, as doctors, and we had graduates that needed some work to do. So we gave them work like compiling all the different doctors' emails and stuff, and we started sending stuff out about environmental medicine, like unpoison your patients, unpoison your patients. Unpoison your patients, and then all that other stuff will work. You may not even need hormone therapy anymore if you're unpoisoning their patients because they might self-regulate. And I watched environmental medicine techniques spread across the American College for Advancement of Medicine, the integrative doctors, you know, profiles. They started including these things, chelation and other things that were unpoisoning their patients. So I know we've had a big effect in the world.
That's good.
And so environmental medicine is a component of mental health. You know, we can't expect our brain to work in a poison environment any more than we can expect a plant, there's some around here, this one, to grow in toxic soil. It's just not. You can't grow a seed in toxic soil. You can't have a brain work in a toxic chemical environment.